Hi. Thanks so much for joining me on Fulfilling Career Happy Life. I'm Randi Roberts. I am an executive and career life and leadership coach, and really excited to be with you today to talk about leadership courage. And for those of you who have been watching these, I pick my topics based on themes that come up with my clients, and sometimes it's things that I'm reading in that too. But we've had a lot of discussions recently about leadership courage, and I thought it was a great topic to bring here. So, thanks for joining. I'm finding myself. I live in Pennsylvania, and it's been really cold the last couple days, and I realize I'm not ready for winter. So, this just a little aside. Anyway, leadership courage. So, leadership is not just about strategy, expertise, or your experience. It is at its core about courage. And I mean, courage, I looked up the definition of it. The ability to do something that frightens you. And we do things that frighten us all the time. But it's really what leadership courage is about, is taking on the thing that you don't know what the outcome is going to be, taking on the thing that maybe you've never done before, taking on the thing that you feel unsure about, and usually acting like you got it all together. You do know what you're doing, and you go forward. The strategy and experience and expertise that I talked about, they're all really, really important. But in a way, they're passive and they're safe. It's when you get into the world of action, making something happen, that you really need that courage. But we're not talking, excuse me, we're not talking about blind courage. That can be reckless. Sometimes taking on something that is really too big a risk, that's really untested, can be reckless. What we're talking about here is sort of informed and reasoned courage. Courage is what allows us as leaders to step into the unknown, to really make decisions without perfect information, without knowing everything we want to know, to really trust ourselves, trust the people around us, and move forward even when the outcome is uncertain. And in today's environment, where complexity and change and ambiguity are constant, the leaders who really succeed are the ones who are willing to act boldly, learn publicly, trying things you haven't done before, making mid-course corrections, and growing continuously. Those are the ones that really make the biggest impact. And courage can be seen as sort of the root system that supports every powerful leadership move. So ask yourself, think about, have you ever worked for a leader that lacked courage? Now, in some ways, courage is in the eye of the beholder, but have you ever worked for someone who you felt did not have courage? I have. I mean, I'm lucky. I've seen way more leaders that have it, but I've definitely worked for some folks that didn't. And they create the leadership brand of being a little bit insecure, a little bit bland sometimes. They almost want to keep their head down and not be noticed. And they play small, which reduces their impact. They really want to keep it safe. Now, there is a time to keep things safe. Think about a time where there's a new boss coming in, things are restructuring, and whoever's running the show now is very hierarchical, kind of knows things need to be done their way. That may be a time to play it safe, which many of us could only do for so long. But safe isn't always safe. There's always a risk. There's always a risk that, excuse me. Safe isn't always safe. Sometimes taking no action, staying where you are, playing small, can actually be dangerous because some action is needed in order just to get through the situation at status quo, and you can build from there. So, um, if you have worked for someone who doesn't have that kind of courage, chances are you know it. It's interesting because I thought about it. The leader that came to mind for me I could give you tons of examples of great leaders that I've worked for and with. But the leader that came to mind for me who did not have organizational courage, and this is probably 15 years ago, I can't remember his name. That's how much he made a lack of impact in a way. It's really interesting. It's probably going to keep me awake tonight. Okay. So why is talking about leadership courage important? Why is it important to have it? Well, courage really is the foundation of bold, effective leadership. If courage is about the ability to do things that frighten us, that are uncertain, then you've got to have that, because in business you're going to be taking on things that are uncertain. And strategy means nothing if you don't have the courage to act on it. Strategy is about making important decisions, but it stops there. The courage is what's required to really take action and move things forward. Courage is also important because it builds trust. Leaders who show up authentically and, you know, uh, fully themselves, that have courage, they'll take thoughtful risks, and others feel safe to do the same. And that's how organizations and individuals grow. Courage is often built on self-trust, which is an interesting way to look at it. We lead best when we believe in our own judgment and ability, and we know that we can adapt as we go. My own experience, I went from a corporate career to running my own business. And it's interesting because my sort of journey with courage and self-trust became very clear to me when I shifted between those two worlds. And it was working with my own coach who helped me really reframe my self-definition from someone who kind of knew what to do. I was in a totally new world when I started my own business. So when I reframed myself from someone who knew what to do to someone who was really good at figuring stuff out when it didn't go according to plan, either it went sideways or just went in a different direction, I am really good at that. And when I tapped into that self-definition, I found my courage again to take risks and be public with things. And it made a huge difference. That self-trust that had been a little bit shaken for me, I was able to find again. So that's something to explore a little bit, because it is really important to being courageous. You need the confidence to act when things are uncertain. So you really, trusting yourself and knowing that you will lead through, you will find the resources, you will find the way, makes all the difference. It enables you to take that courageous act. It's just the belief that you can handle whatever comes next. So let's think of some examples of courageous courage. Let's think of some examples of leadership courage that you've probably seen in action. Leaders need to often jump before you're ready. You want to wait until you're ready. And the truth is, you will never know everything you need to know. If you wait for perfect clarity, if you wait to have 100% of the information that you want, your competition will beat you to the opportunity. So one act of leadership courage is getting comfortable operating on, some people call it 80-20. I have a client that goes by 70-30, meaning 80%, or in his case, 70% of what you want to know to make the decision, and then you jump. The thinking is that the extra work that it will come to torture filling that gap of information will cause you often to miss the opportunity, and it devalues the experience, the expertise, the judgment that you or you with your team collectively have to make that really educated decision. So it takes courage, but making that decision to use an 80-20 rule, 70-30 rule, pick your own number and act on it can make all the difference in moving your business forward. And if it doesn't work, you're not going to fail spectacularly. Things may go a little bit awry and you can fix them. Mid-course corrections are really something that we do all the time. Another reason or example of leadership courage is recognizing that things won't be perfect and redefining imperfection as progress or momentum. So it's not failure, it's you're making progress, you're moving towards something, and it can be adjusted. A quote that I love is, "You can't steer a parked car." I mean, think about it. If you're sitting in a parked car, you got the ignition on, but you're in park, you're just sitting there, listening to a podcast, whatever you're doing, waiting for somebody, and you try and turn the wheel, you will have every bit of resistance that the road surface can offer. You'll have no power steering assist. It's a really difficult thing to do. But if you get in motion just a little bit, you put the car even in neutral, you put it in drive, just let your foot off the gas enough that you start to have some movement, it's much more easy to turn the wheel and to correct. And any action you take is the same. Even the scariest thing, if you have courage and you get going and you get out of park, you can then change your direction a little bit and correct the course so that you get where you're going. There's very few things that can't be adjusted. Courage also means being willing to step into the unknown and really leaning into the discomfort which is where you can grow. And it's where innovation happens. You hear me talk all the time about your comfort zone keeps you small, whereas if you're willing to get uncomfortable and get out into the growth zone, it's where the magic can happen. And that absolutely takes courage. It may not feel like courage because it may feel like you may be building the muscle to do that, but it does take courage. You got to push yourself sometimes more consciously than others, but that is what you're doing. And if you can't do that, you're playing safer, you're taking less risk, and from investing in the market, less risk equals less reward. So you're just playing in a smaller field. Another example of leadership courage and why it's important is that trusting in your team really amplifies your impact. So it may, chances are the people that work for you have often less experience that you have. They may be deeper in certain, functional areas, but they have less breadth of experience. So you may feel that for many things, the way to do it. You may know how to do it better, that kind of thing. But trusting your team really does amplify your impact. If you have the courage to let go, let them find their way, they may have an idea that you wouldn't have had that might even be better, might be more efficient, might be an opportunity to coalesce your team. And even if it wasn't exactly the way you wanted it to be and you feel that your way could have had a greater impact, it still takes your team farther along the development path, and you cannot do everything yourself. So have the courage to let go, empower the team. It builds trust, it builds camaraderie, it develops their skills, and it builds the ability for you to let go even further. It will make your life easier. You can focus on the big picture things that you want to be focused on. Also important with courage is to think about the courage it takes to accept things. And that really is an act of leadership because not everything will go according to plan. And those moments can be your most valuable lessons if you see them that way. If something goes wrong, if something falls apart, whatever it is, and you're fixing it and you're doing the things to get things back on track. Don't lose that opportunity to learn from it. So it's really, you've probably heard the concept from the military of the after action review. Once the dust has settled, once the crisis is over, it's an opportunity to think about what went really well. What would you want to do differently next time? So it's not a what should we have done, it's a forward-looking thought of if we're faced with this situation again, when we're faced with this situation again, how do we want to handle it? So you're really mining the learning. If you pretend something negative didn't happen, sort of, sweep it under the rug and move forward, you are missing a learning opportunity for your organization. And it's really important as a leader to have the courage to look at those things, even if it's something you want to do differently next time, that you feel like you wish you had taken on in a different way. Having the courage to narrate through that and really explain that to your team makes it safe for them to explore their own actions and not just learn from you, but build that culture of it's okay for us to take the risks. Risks don't always work out. We'll learn from them. We'll right the ship. We'll be stronger for it. Thinking also about courage, sustained courage really creates a culture of resilience because your behavior and your approach to it sets the standard for how others will show up, how others will take risks, and how others will support each other to take risks. It's one thing for an individual to have courage. Like you may say, we're taking risks. We're going to have the courage to do this thing. And somebody may do it. And if the rest of the team sort of holds back to see what happens, there's an opportunity to lean into it a little bit more. And by setting that culture, you can make sure that everybody's all in. And, if something goes wrong, it's not about finger pointing. It's about pitching in together and fixing it and learning from it and moving forward. And you as the leader, having that courageous stand is really what sets that tone. So a great way to think about it, an important thing for us to keep in mind is that courage is not a one-time thing. It's a daily leadership practice. It's like meditation or yoga or any of the other things that we call a practice. It isn't perfect. It's something that we do every day. And some days we do it better than others, but don't think about it as a courageous act. Think about it as an everyday thing. It really shows up in how we make decisions and how we communicate. And as I've said, how we take risks. And it requires courage to recover when the things don't go as expected. When we choose courage, we choose growth. We choose connection. We choose possibilities, and we allow trust. And as leaders, when we model courage, we give our teams permission to be courageous too. So the question isn't, are you ready? It's, are you willing to step forward even before you feel ready? And that's where that extraordinary leadership lives. And that's where you want to be playing. Okay, so that was an awful lot about courage. In socializing the topic a little bit, I've gotten a couple of questions. So the two that sort of summed them up, the first question I got is, I feel like I'm standing on the edge of the diving board and I can't make myself jump. And I know I need to take action, but I feel frozen. How do I do it? And I can relate to this because literally when my friends and I are at the lake and we're on the dock, I'm always the last one to jump in. But really what you want to do, that awareness that you are the thing holding yourself back is important. So gather some facts. What is it that you know? What is it that you don't know? Do you have enough information and context on the situation to do it? That right there may give you the courage that you need to just take that leap. It's going to be okay. Sometimes, again, we don't want to be in that reckless courage. You want to make sure you do have the facts that you need. But likely when you weigh all the things that you know and then take a look at what you don't know, you probably have enough. Another way to think about it, once you've done that, if you're still not ready, think about where you want to be on this project, in your own leadership stand and brand. Where do you want to be in some future period of time? It might be 2 weeks, it might be 2 months, it might be 2 years. Where do you want to be on that? And get clear on that. And then you can sort of roll it back to today. If it was me and I'm thinking 2 years out, what does Randy 2 years from now need Randy to do today to set that up? And so sometimes having that future vision, not just of the outcome, but who you want to be at that period of time, that can make the decision a lot easier. Which serves that reality better, to jump or to stay still? I think most of the time that's going to give you what you need to jump, but there are times to just back away, wrap the towel around yourself and head off. And if that's what's going to best serve your outcome, if safety is what you need at that moment, just do it. Don't make yourself feel guilty about it. But I think most of the time, if you go through that thought process, you'll take that leap. The second question I got, and this one I really understand. I understood the first one too, but this one I really do understand. I took the leap and I got burned. I tried the thing, I took the risk, and it didn't work out. And it felt like the repercussions of that were big, were bad, were painful. So now it's harder for me to do it. How can I deal with that? That's real. Like, our experiences can leave a bruise and can make it harder to do it again. But what I would say is follow the same steps. Gather your facts, figure out what you know, figure out what you don't know. If you're working up, sort of swimming upstream, if you've been there before and there's some residual pain, you might want to spend a little bit more time on gathering the facts and making sure that the things that you don't know are really okay, and you're feeling more solid than perhaps you did the first time when things didn't go well. And then think again about what's that future you need. And really, I think you're going to feel better about taking the leap than not. And many times the only way to get over an experience like that is to do it again. Take on the thing that scares you and make it a habit. And then you'd be surprised at how easy it is. Okay, so those are my thoughts on courage. I hope it sparked some ideas for you. Let me know what you're thinking. If you want to talk more, I'd love it. I'm really passionate about this topic right now. So thanks for listening in. See you soon.